Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'll be playing against none other than Feng, and the whole point of this video is to kind of highlight the Dominion Core, which before was only available in Rift mode, but ever since the latest patch, it is now also available in other game modes. And it's a fairly interesting item. This game will showcase you how you could use it. Feng here decides to go for Supply Specialist with Marksman and Spiders. It is a pack that I don't like picking that much just because of this particular matchup right here where you end up against Sabers, and once again, Sabers are very popular currently. So yeah, not a great matchup for my opponent. For you guys who don't know Feng, he is also known as a Red Hair in the English community, but on cast in Mag 1 he has requested to be called Feng, so that is what I'll be calling him from now on. In this particular game, he is going to be on the left side of the board. I am pushing on the right because that is the more empty side, and on the left I also have a magnetic barricade and a anti-armor cannon to help out, stalling anything that might be trying to get my tower. So this is kind of the way that I do like to play, utilize my buildings, even when I'm on offense, to kind of stall the opposite side of the board and prevent my tower from dying early if there is some counter aggression. Now, in this situation, the best chaff clear unit to buy is clearly going to be Hounds. They just pair the best with Sabers overall, and they've got good scaling. They're not necessarily that good into Spiders, but I don't think there are any good alternatives, really. Arclights just don't gel too well in aggro setups, and I mean, any other chaff clear unit that you could buy is just strictly going to be worse. Fire Badger isn't that great. And you could go for Wraith, but my opponent already has Marksman, and, well, I would have to somehow stall the early game here to be able to afford a Wraith on, like, round 2 or something. And the kind of basic game plan for me is to simply buy a Phoenix on round 2. It is a very straightforward setup, and it works, perfectly well. Phoenix is extremely good in these type of situations. It is the best DPS unit, in my opinion, that you can buy early on. It's fast. And yeah, it'll allow you to rotate on the field very, very quickly. We get the first debuff. We'll have to kind of see how this pans out. Looks like one of my Sabers will get locked onto, and I will lose it. But hopefully the other one can make sure that we end up winning here. Kind of unfortunate timing overall. The Marksmen are not getting targeted. The Sabertooth decides to turn. We don't get a debuff on time, and I sadly lose a round here that I think most of the time in most setups I would very easily win. But yeah, sadly here with the crossfire, hard to know what happens, and Feng does take the very first round, even manages to pick up a marksman level. Round number 2, we get Wasps. Overall, one of the better things that you can get, in my opinion, on round 2. It's just annoying to deal with. There aren't many units that are going to be on the board, except for maybe a Mustang opener that really love dealing with that Wasp, so I like picking it up. It also defends the flank very adequately. And I do decide to put it on my main board because on the left, I think it will just get stuck on chaff too much. I have nothing here to help and support that Wasp, so it will end up dying to the Marksman, even if slowly. On the right, it might be able to pressure the tower, and then it'll be able to help out my army, stall for them, while the Sabers actually get to do their job. Now, I decide to buy another Hound because I am trying to catch some of these crawlers. That is often going to be the case when you're playing in a crossfire. You're basically just trying to stall the left side as much as you can. I have the magnetic barricade, I have a building, I now add a Fang that is slowly going to be trickling in. The reason this is not a crawler is because a crawler would basically run ahead of my other units there and end up dying without really achieving much. Whereas the Fang is going to trickle through and, provide some stall there also for my Hound. At least when it's ranged. Right now, it might be in some trouble, but, I'm kind of in the process of setting up here something that'll be able to prevent all of this from getting in. And the Fangs also do help out slightly with the clearing of the chaff, so not a bad result overall. Opponent goes for a Mustang right away, so does respect the fact that I could pick a Wasp, but the Mustang's kind of isolated from the rest of the team, will go down in the middle of the board. I get a debuff. I lost one Saber, but I think this time around our pathing is going to be slightly better, even though my Wasps here will get locked onto by the Marksman and slowly picked apart. But this time around, the Saber isn't isolated. It's not being locked onto by the Marksman, so it can do its job and take care of that Tarantula. Again, though, never mind. I thought we were going to win this, but that's not the case whatsoever. We'll actually lose again because of a bad tower timing. And here is the item in question, Dominion Core. So for those of you that don't know what this item does, if you haven't played Rift, a unit equipped with Dominion Core gains 50% attack, 100% HP, and it generates 50 supplies at the start of each round. Now you do need to equip the item to get this passive resource effect. And the downside to this very stat-heavy item is that if the unit dies that is carrying the Dominion Core, your entire army explodes and you lose the round. So it's very feast or famine, right? You have to put it on a unit that will likely die last, or with the bonus stats is going to be so tanky that your opponent can't deal with it. So in this scenario, I thought, well, it's the earliest round it can show up. It's basically like the supply enhancement card, but I get an item as well, right? With a lot of stats. And if I just play this correctly, I shouldn't really have to worry too much about the downside of losing my army. You can see what it does here, right? Sabretooth I knew was about to level, so I decided to put it on that one. And even though the spider, locks onto it, it's just not a DPS unit that can deal with this level 1 Sabretooth. It's basically got the hit points of a level 2 Saber with the 100%, bonus hit points. And yeah, it's doing fantastic here. So the round that we pick up the Dominion Core, we end up winning, which is very nice because my opponent didn't pick it up. He went for the laser sights instead, and I will be farming those extra 50 supplies from now on. Overall, I think this is a really good power spike for me, and I can always transition that item onto something different, right? It can sit pretty safely on one of your backline DPS carries in, the mid or late game, and you can still use the resources effectively because those are the type of units that should die last, right? So you would only basically lose that unit if you lose the fight anyway. Smoke Bomb gets picked up. I kind of did expect this. I decided to go for the Javelin instead because round 4 Javelin does have a very short cooldown. We will likely see it back, and there's already some decent targets to hit. Now, Fung Fung decides to go for the Melting Point here with range enhancement immediately on round 4. So he's very, very respecting of this Sabretooth. And of course, he too knows that if he can take down this Sabretooth, he doesn't have to worry about the rest of my board because all of my remaining units will instantly die. I do go for attack and defense enhancement. Hound levels here would be nice. I am going to beacon back my Saber. The beacon, I would say, is a little bit too far, but I was in a bit of a time scramble there at the end. So that is why the beacon is a bit longer than I normally would want to. But the reason I did this was I was expecting the smoke. I didn't want to immediately run into it with my, kind of king here on the battlefield. I notice as well that I am going for a bit of counter pressure on the left side, which we are now managing to win as I have a Typhoon on the flank with the Crawler, and I paired it up with that Javelin to get rid of all of the flank defenders. So we managed to get a good debuff. And looks like, with all of these other units dying and 2 towers going down, I will just be able to take down that Melting Point, with the Saber arriving just in time to at least participate a little bit. And so far, so good. Round number 5, though, we have unit reinforcements, and this is the point where I start thinking, alright, well, I'm not that invested into Sabers, I have no techs. Sabretooth is good into Spider, and it can deal with Melting Points if you go for range and double shot, but I thought it was a little bit too risky, all things considered, and I would rather go for a more solid late game option, such as the Overlord here that is being offered. So my plan was to just basically try and avoid the smoke as much as possible, sell out of my Sabretooth. It's fulfilled its job in the early game, and now I will really start investing in my late game comp, which is going to still be based around the Hounds, as often will be, but paired with Overlords instead, which I think scale a bit better, are probably a bit safer as well when they are carrying the Dominion Core, and they have a good matchup, a very good matchup into Spiders and Melting Points. Overall, I think Overlord late game always beats Melting Points. They are simply not powerful as long as you run range enhancement and launcher overload. So here I decide to go on the left side. We add a Hound for some chaff clear, a Crawler as well. We keep that flank over here. I kind of want to see him react to it. And if he doesn't, in my opinion, react well enough, I might just leave it there to pull away as much of the chaff as possible and open up that tower, right? Because these Crawlers, they're meant to defend the Spiders, but if they get pulled away, suddenly that Spider is all by its lonesome. And with the range enhancement picked up on the Overlord, it is instantly going to go down, crippling the chaff clear potential of my opponent on the left side of the board. On the right, I didn't do too much. I did go for a bit of a beacon here, try and save some of my hounds because I do need a little bit of chaff here at least. But I'm just trying to avoid the smoke as much as possible, and I stall very effectively there. My opponent starts far back, so he won't be able to run in quick. And with the debuff timer, we even, prevent our right side tower from going down altogether. Here come the Overlords. They don't have Overload just yet, but I think for now range is going to be just fine as long as we manage to chaff clear. And my Dominion Core Overlord is sitting nice and pretty and safe, and it will not go down. So far, we have not had any disasters happen where my Dominion Core unit instantly goes down and I take thousands of HP worth of damage. Round number 6, Steel Ball Production Line shows up. I'm very happy to pick this. Absorption Module could be an alternative. Amplifying Core I think is fine too, but I would prefer Absorption Module, I think, especially on something like a level 2 Overlord. It's a bit cheaper, and they can get scary, for sure. Steel Ball Production Line here, though, just S tier item, right? If you manage to punch through, it'll just keep producing more chaff for us. And speaking of chaff, I now want to protect my boats as much as possible. I kind of expected my opponent to go for more melting points to be able to deal with my Overlords, so he's still lacking some anti-wasp units. He does have one pack of Mustangs, but I wasn't expecting him to buy more this turn. So this turn, I can still, abuse the fact that he can't really deal with the wasps that well, and they will protect my Overlords very nicely. On the right side, I have now sold out of my Sabers. I am not adding any DPS units. I am perfectly okay with just stalling. None of these units are fast, except maybe that Rhino, but the Crawlers we should be able to kill. I think I can kill most of his chaff as well. And honestly, I think I can push in quicker than he can. So if we manage to get the debuff, we'll slow him down, and we might even get to pull his units towards the middle instead of towards my tower. Notice how I am beaconing backwards one of the hounds here, because I wanted to arrive a little bit late to try and secure all the enemy chaff on that side. I felt like if all of them go forward at the same time, they might end up getting eaten by these spiders, and I won't be able to chaff clear everything. Meanwhile, the left side looking good. That flank is still putting in some real work. As you can see here, the Overlord does go in, and because we have temp range and temp speed on round 6, we managed to lock onto the tower. It's still level 1, it goes down, we get 9 seconds worth of debuff. Very, very solid stuff there. And during the debuff, we get to clean up all the crawlers on the left. As you can see, the right side is doing just fine. Those late hounds have now arrived. They get rid of the fangs that were coming in, and I think this should still be a victory. Although we'll have to see how this Overlord performs. It's very, very tanky. I level 2. I did make sure that I did level it, because 100% extra hit points and 50% bonus attack, you do want to make use of the level up when you can. And that is another successful round for us on round number 7. Here comes round number 7 with not the most interesting cards, I would say. Missile Strike is all right. Vulcan's Descent, I maybe should be a little bit worried about, because right now it would be able to get a debuff for my opponent. I don't have it too well defended. I don't mind going for the Missile Strike myself, but I could skip it. Looks like I do end up picking it. It's rather late for this spell, right? It's really good early on, because you will get usually like 3 rotations of it at least. Whereas here, it's really just going to be for this round, most likely. I think if I play this cleanly, I should be able to close it out before it comes back. But still, getting rid of the chaff is not too bad. This Rhino is blocking my Typhoon from clearing. If I get rid of more crawlers, I should be just fine. Notice that my opponent does put more crawlers here in front, so he realizes that the spiders are in a bit of a precarious position. The melting point gets added on the flank. He doesn't really have a ton of space for it. I guess he could have put it over here, but maybe it would be in too vulnerable of a spot. Now again, I go for this beacon backwards. I add an Overlord. I make sure that I put it kind of in the back, because I don't think it can win by itself on that side. But maybe it can be timed in such a way that when I get this tower debuff, this will be, within range of enemy units, and then be able to clean up before these units have made the journey over. I do go for a bit of a beacon now on the left, actually, as I try to kind of get towards that diagonal and avoid the middle of the board. Not sure if it works out too well. My opponent does have Subterranean Blitz at this point. And, well, I have second attack enhancement, which is nice. Hopefully I can get a debuff. Looks like I can. I mean, my Overlords have been doing some real work, as with that debuff, I can take down the melting points and prevent, again, my Overlord from going down. Right side, as I mentioned, this Overlord now arrives. Even though the debuff has subsided, it is able to start fighting back, while my other Overlords are still kind of busy making their way over to that right side. Melting Point will trade with my right side Overlord, and the left two are going to prevail. It's not quite lethal, but it's very close, sending Fung Fung down to 224. Here comes round number 8 with some very big spells, as is, it feels like kind of tradition in Mechabellum. Ion Blast and Nuke showing up on what could be the final round. And I was a bit scared here because Nuke is somewhat annoying for me to dodge. I mean, it's just a guessing game, right? Like, I could beacon my stuff over to the right, but Fung Fung knows that that is a possible move, so he could gamble, put the nuke over there. So the safest thing I can probably do is just beacon my Overlords backwards and try to perhaps hit a spell of my own. I think for me, the Ion Blast is probably better, as his units are relatively stagnant and I should be able to hit them. I'm not sure if I'm not pushing in, if I can break enemy shields, so Nuke is a little risky and it is also more expensive. I also have my Orbital Javelin back, so we can, you know, just pummel the enemy field here with spells. I was quite surprised my opponent went for Ion Blast. This can be a lot trickier to hit, especially, you know, with aggro having access to the mobile beacon and, you know, me being set up on both the left and the right side. I could have sold an Overlord here and pushed on the right. I could just generally, like, beacon this towards the side and avoid the Ion Blast, so it's not the spell I was expecting. I'm not sure if beaconing it in this way is the best, but I felt like with the help of the Ion Blast, plus that Javelin, I should be fine, but we'll have to see if that is the case or not, because I have been getting this tower very consistently, and I think the debuff has been helping me out a ton. This late Overlord, I'm not quite sure of, but I was afraid he would throw the nuke in the middle. That is the spell I was expecting, and I thought he would throw it mid, because it's kind of common for the Overlords to get repositioned or like sold and repurchased or, you know, beaconed towards the other side. So I thought he would go for the middle here. He doesn't. I do dodge the Ion Beam and hit it somewhat nicely on his board. The only downside is that I haven't gotten the debuff, and his 2 melting points are able to survive the damage from the Ion Blast because they're level 2. Notice as well that my opponent here already has double defense enhancement, and those bonus hit points really do matter quite a bit. So even though I had, you know, Javelin back and I dodged the Ion Beam, it seems like this round just did not work out that well for me. So I think the debuff really was just a lot better for me than, you know, getting those spells there. And, well, my Overlord will go down at last, but there's no other units left alive, so I don't really pay the price for that Dominion core. Notice at this point, it has been printing a fair bit of money, because we're already on round number 9. Here come the unit reinforcements. No spells this time, so I can just try and get through to that tower. I would say that it is a little bit under-defended. It should probably have been leveled at this stage. I'm not a huge fan of this melter positioning. I think that one behind the tower is okay, but I think typically you do just want to have more stuff in front of your tower. And speaking of stuff in front of your units, here come sledgehammers. Very happy to pick those up. They are a great late game drop if you haven't got them already, and they are exceptionally good against these high explosive tarantulas and the melting points. Nothing much on the enemy field can quickly get rid of those, so it'll just buy even more time for my Overlords to do their thing. As I mentioned, I wasn't too happy about this Overlord in the back, so I probably should just end up selling it and purchase now more Overlords, as you do with this comp. Once you got, you know, your hounds on the field, you've got your chaff all laid out, you basically just want to buy more Overlords and then try to grab whatever tanky thing you can from the unit drops. And they do like being stacked. That way you can death ball on one side of the field and really target one of the towers. Another alternative would have been to try and, you know, do something over here, as it is slightly under defended in terms of deployments, or at least there's less chaff, so maybe I could snipe the tower, but I was relatively happy just going over here. I will also missile all of his frontal chaff. This is a good thing to do when you think it's, you know, the last round or the second to last round, as doing so oftentimes does make sure that you can lock onto the important enemy units. Fung Fung here, by the way, went for the Phoenix and just sold. I think that's a fine play, although I think some stuff in front could have helped as well. Maybe he should have gone sledgehammers himself. I mean, look at that, right? Immediately, again, the Overlords lock on. There are some missile interceptors. I wouldn't recommend doing that. It tends to just not work at all, especially when the Overlords are stacked with Overload. It's just too much, and it's kind of wasted money. And as you can see here, right, unleveled tower, we break it very easily. The Chaff Clear got killed at round start, and that makes it a lot more difficult for my opponent to do anything. So this will just be a convincing victory on round number 9. We managed to take that W. So yeah, hope that you guys liked this. I quite enjoyed playing Dominion Core this game. It felt strong to me. It's not that expensive at 100, and when it shows up on round 3, you can make quite a bit of money on it. I think it's relatively safe on carry units. It sometimes can even be put on tanks, right? Like I did on the Sabertooth, but only really in the early game. As soon as that gets countered, you will have to put it on something, you know, that sits a bit further back on the field. In this case, the Overlord transition was very nice for us. That drop did, you know, give me a pretty easy pivot. Now, what should my opponent have done? I have replayed this round over and over and over, and it is very, very sensitive to the particular plays that you go for. Now, some of you might think, oh, but Marksman gets offered, you should pick that. It doesn't do anything, really. The main problem here is that these spiders get instantly killed and you just don't kill the chaff. Plus, you already have melting points, and their job is to kill the Overlords. As long as you can lock onto the Overlords, the melting points will do just as well as those marksmen. So in this case, I think what you should do is just grab these sledgehammers and go for something like regen. We do have double defense enhancement, which is very nice. I would likely go for even 2 more crawlers here in front of the field. Let's also go for low on temp range, temp speed, because we want to try and maybe grab this debuff if we can on the left. And then a missile here would be nice. A missile there, I think, would be nice as well. I am going to also buy a Mustang because I think we are lacking something to deal with these wasps, and just more chaff clear, more stuff to get in front of our really important units is going to do quite well for us. Let's also level this melting point. We can sell this guy. Let's level this tower twice. And then perhaps just grab these 2 levels on the left side. This leveled Tarantula with the laser sight is pretty strong, and it should be able to kill the hounds a little bit quicker, which maybe makes a difference. Now let's see how this plays out. I hope I got the positioning correct. As I mentioned earlier, it is extremely finicky. I have replayed this round over and over and over again, and just slightly different positioning on the sledgehammer, on a crawler, on a missile, ends up losing the round. So it's a very, very hard round to win for my opponent, but I think the takeaway is that you need more frontline, right? You need to stall the boats for as long as you can. You need to buy more time for your tarantulas to be able to chaff clear. So what you see here is that the left side does end up winning. The tower is locked onto. I hope that we will be fine. Maybe we won't be. It looks like we will actually get debuffed here in the end. Maybe the melting point can do something. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, it's just so incredibly finicky. Maybe I will try to replay it so you guys can see how the slightly different positioning actually makes a massive difference. So let's try the round again. And I think maybe I got the Mustang positioning wrong. It's really crazy. I'm pretty sure that the positioning I used before was this. So this, that. We definitely want this level. Definitely want to missile that. I think we can sell the Rhino and then go double crawler. Just like so. We definitely missile this. We definitely missile that, which we already did. And then what else? What else? We level the tower twice. I'm pretty sure that is something that I did do. And then we buy a Mustang. And then instead of doing it, I think I did this in the last round. Let's do this and showcase how that impacts the game. If I win here, yeah, the game can be very hard sometimes. I also think that my board is just strictly stronger, and I should outscale, but yeah, it can sometimes impact rounds, you know, like when you get the tower debuff, where a certain chaff clear or chaff unit is, whether this gets a slightly more or slightly less uptime, it all does impact, you know, what exactly happens, and also where that boat goes. We do lock on. And now, yeah, the melting point locks onto the Overlord, then has the Dominion core, and suddenly it's a 1000 HP swing. So, I have not, you know, shown you guys this type of finicky replay nonsense, but yeah, there you go. It is now in a video. But yeah, it matters, right? The only thing I changed is one Mustang going from one square here to one square slightly more to the left. That's all that changed, right? Same missile positioning, same tech, same everything. The reason is that there are basically like RNG seeds, as far as I know, on a given round, depending on, you know, what specialist you are, what techs you have, and also the positioning of your units. So positioning a Mustang slightly different changes the seed and also makes it so that you target stuff slightly differently. So yeah, now we, you know, I win the round because I killed the Dominion Core Overlord, and I would have lost. I wouldn't have died because I think I had 2,000 hit points remaining or something, but it does showcase kind of the core idea here, which is just putting more stuff in front of your spiders to buy yourself more time for these melting points to arrive. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about it and about that replay round, I guess. If you want to stay up to date with latest content, please consider subscribing. If you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. That being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.